I guess you could say everybody has a voice, but they just need to find their key. And in my case, I just started working with what I had. And I think people just release things just to expect to see where it goes. And I would say several years ago, maybe more, that probably would have been a good idea, but it's not the same anymore.
Do you think name is very important, that it can change the path of a career?
Definitely.
Yeah?
Absolutely. I think people don't take that into consideration. I mean, yes, it's a fun project, but a lot of people don't understand that this is your project, that you're the way you represent yourself. You know, think of it as a business. Technically, it is. You know, and it has a limited run. Nothing lasts forever.
That they are launching a reboot of Miami Vice. How do you feel about that? Do you think it's a good thing? Vin Diesel, Don Johnson, please don't make mistake Magnum PI did, where it looks modern, professional, but it's just lame. Today we have a very special guest, one of my favorite synthwave artists, Dream Shore. He's a synthwave royalty, born and raised in Miami, the capital of synthwave. Where do you think the knack for nostalgia of the 80s comes from? Because you were born outside the 80s, you were born a bit later.
Right. Well, I would say, yeah, I mean, from many different things, from movies to video games to music itself. It's sort of combined this whole element to captivate a large quantity of people, even from people within the decade who haven't been born from that time frame as well. So, yeah.
I personally had this 80s bug my whole life since, like, I don't know, I think mid-90s, when the first 80s classic compilation started coming out.
Yeah. And
I started hearing that music, and I thought, oh, why am I not hearing this on the radio anymore, you know? Because that sound of the 80s, it just hit chords with me, you know? And at that point I started downloading music, you know, P2P started, like Audio Galaxy, Napster, LimeWire, Kazam, I think. And it would take, in '99 for me, it would take a whole night to download 12 songs. And I remember it would be like gift every morning. I wake up and I have those 12 new songs.
Yeah.
So your favorite car of all time is Ferrari Testarossa. By the way, so is mine. That design language, I think, is if you had to define 80s in one picture, I would just put Ferrari Testarossa.
That's it, yeah. Nothing else.
Yeah, you know, there was a time in my life when I wanted to buy one, and I couldn't afford it, but I was sort of dreaming about getting one.
Yeah.
But then I found out how hard it is to maintain it. That it's basically, it's like having 5 kids basically. That's
pretty much.
The maintenance.
Yeah, actually, did you know that the white Testarossa from Miami Vice is at a swap shop in Fort Lauderdale? I'm not sure if you ever been there before.
Wow, I've been to Fort Lauderdale, but it's there.
Shop. Yeah, it's there. It's right where the arcades are in. It's in the main. I think it's in the main hall of the swap shop. They have like a little movie theater outside as well, and tons of other people selling. Think of it as a flea market. Right. But yeah, the cars.
And it's there just there. As a monument.
Yeah.
Wow, I need to go there, man. No, I've been told by many peers that I'm stuck in the 80s because I'm so in love with all things 80s, you know. Have you ever had that say to you?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, not everybody would have the same appreciation or love for that particular decade compared to everybody else, and everybody else has the interest of aesthetics that revolve around music and art itself during the 80s. So. Yeah, absolutely.
I always think I'm not stuck. I think they're missing out.
They're just missing out.
Yeah. Who were the first synthwave artists, producers who you discovered, which then propelled you into becoming one yourself?
You know what? During 2013, I started scrolling around YouTube and a few other platforms, listening to electronic music, and then I discovered Miami Nights 1984. and Mitch Murder, just to name a few. I don't know if you ever heard of
Mitch Murder, yeah.
Yeah, those
one of the
guys
legends. And
yes, and he's still actually making music right now. Unfortunately, I can't say the same for Miami Nights, but you know.
Oh, sadly, Miami Nights 1984. We miss you, and we want more music from you. Like your first album changed the synthwave. Really, I think it had so much impact.
Created a huge movement.
Yeah, but so did Beyond Synth with Andy Synth.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
I think Andy Synth has done a lot for the genre of synthwave.
Absolutely.
And I listen to his podcast every week. I'm even one of the patrons because he just brings me so much value. This is where I often discover new songs.
Yeah,
the name Dream Shore. We have to talk about that because when I saw that name Dream Shore, I had to check out your songs. I'm already feeling it.
Yeah.
It's you're painting a picture just with 2 words.
Mm-hmm.
And the music you make. My favorite album is Resilience. That is like Dream Shore. When I go jogging around here in South Beach, it's like it was made for that moment.
Right, yeah.
2013 you discovered synthwave music,
right.
And then 2015 you started making it yourself. Walk us through a process of like how do you make music? Like some people, they say they just whistle to themselves when they are cycling and then they sort of record it and then they go back to the studio and they try to play it. How do you do it?
It definitely varies because there's many moments in my life where I have inspiration out of nowhere from anywhere. It could be from home till at a nearby park or something like that. It's just I don't really have a particular way of creating music. Sometimes I do stick with a certain rotation when I'm writing basic chords and such, but when it comes to melodies, it really just comes down to just improv and just experimenting, tons of experimentation.
Yeah.
And lots of scrolling through sounds, picking out something that I haven't used yet or something that I can create and tweak it as mine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I produced a couple of tracks myself, house music tracks, and my process was, so I have a keyboard in front of me and I'm just randomly pressing buttons until I find something which sounds good.
Yeah.
Then I save it in the memory and then so I save that in the memory, I'm gonna play it again and then I'm gonna try to add to that some more.
Yeah.
And I keep trying. It's pretty much very random until I have the whole sequence, which could be a chorus, refrain.
Right.
Kind of thing. When you tell people you're a music artist, producer, they probably gonna ask you what genre.
Right.
And do you tell them it's synthwave or do you keep it simple?
I figured that name probably it's not gonna be that common for another who knows how many years. So usually the name, the main name that I tend to pick out to tell people what I create is just synth pop.
Synth pop, yeah. Just keep it simple.
Yeah, just keep it simple.
And they understand synth pop, right?
Yeah. And then eventually they'll realize, oh, this is not the type of synth pop that I was expecting.
Yeah.
So maybe I would probably dig in a little bit deeper into this genre. So, you never know. It's an element of surprise the way I see it.
Yeah, and I think there are so many people who would love this music, this type of music, but they haven't discovered it.
Right.
Because in order to discover it, you have to go out of your way and search it first. It's not gonna come to you unless you meet one of a few guys in the world. It's not a huge community. It's an underground community, and someone's gonna, show you and tell you, and then you go. But it took me. I only discovered it in 2016. At the end I discovered Kavinsky.
Yeah.
And then I discovered Miami Nights 1984, and that was it. That just opened the door for everything.
Yeah, Kavinsky was probably like a really big reason as towards the music community has the way it's developed as of now. That movie, I don't know if you've watched it, Drive?
Yes, I did, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what...
Oh, that movie was actually...
In 2011.
Yeah. I wish once they start making this Miami Vice reboot, I wish they use some of those elements, sort of, that sort of 80s panache, 80s flamboyance. Obviously, it's a different time, it's 35 years later, but you can still add some elements of, you know,
Yeah.
And cinematography of Michael Mann as well. It's fascinating to me. Sometimes I'm thinking, wow, it's so creative. It's like they're making a music video.
Yeah, they are. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, did the fact that you're born and raised in Miami have anything to do with you delving into synthwave genre and maybe 80s nostalgia? Because Miami is so related to that era, mostly because of Miami Vice.
Right. Well, you know, at first it wasn't the case, but because I was making electronic music before I got involved with this music community. But then I realized when I discovered it, I said to myself, well, maybe I'll give it a shot and see how it turns out. Since I technically blend right in with the environment itself, so I said, why not? I'll give it a shot.
Yeah. This is a perfect spot, you know.
Yeah.
And I see why you called yourself Dream Shore, because right now we are on a dream shore, right?
Yeah.
This is probably the most picturesque city in the world to me. What do you not like about synthwave music coming out these days? Obviously, it's evolved since its beginnings, perhaps 10 years ago. And what would you like to see an improvement on?
Well, to begin with, there's too many releases. There's a lot of people that enjoy it, but also want to create it. And there's been a lot more music releases more now than ever. So I feel like all of this music that's being released within a very short period of time is sort of making it difficult for average casual listeners to dig deep into the music community, because otherwise they might like one album, but then the other album that they listened to that was just probably rushed, or, you know, like I say, I think it comes down to the quality, the production of the song, of the music, that sort of captivates the audience. And, you know, not everybody's going to take the time to dig in to listen to every single release. So I would say less releases, more people should take more time in that, and also let other bands and artists to release their music at a time frame where it's not interfering with yours. You know, so quality, absolutely. I think quality. It all comes down to quality.
You are a well-rounded musician. You sing, you play instruments, you do everything yourself. Are you completely self-taught, or did you have any training in terms of musical instruments and production?
Well, a lot of what I do now comes from improv, just improvising with everything, trial and error. Everything's trial and error. Since I was a kid, I started playing the bass to the guitar, and then just developing my skills into other instruments. And within my, by the time I turned 18, that's when I got into recording music. And that's how this whole journey began, into doing everything myself. Since I was always, I do come from a background of rock music and heavy metal, but then doing this, I realized I've had a lot more time to develop my sound and worry more about what I do rather than worry about what other people do that involves my project. So anything that happens to me, anything that I do with my project, it's all up to me. You know, I'm responsible for myself, and that's the way I like. That's how I like it.
Do you also listen to synthwave a lot, like in general?
Definitely.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I have a Spotify playlist of my own that I tend to curate on a monthly basis called Night Shift.
Night Shift, okay.
Yeah, so
guys, check it out. It's called Night Shift. Spotify playlist compiled by Dream Shore himself.
100 songs curated monthly.
Yeah. Have you always had a good voice, or is it something you developed along the way? And do you do any exercises for your voice? And maybe you could share some exercises with us.
Well, I guess you could say everybody has a voice, but they just need to find their key. And in my case, I just started working with what I had and listening to music and just singing along to songs. I was really obsessed with just singing to a lot of different, 80s rock band music, rock songs and synth pop and such. And as far as practice is concerned, I mean, I don't practice as often as I should, but when I do practice, I tend to just use the piano to exercise my vocal range, to see how high I can go, how low I can go.
What other like exercise? If I want like to prepare, for example, for singing or maybe a talking engagement, what sort of can I do?
Breathing. Breathe as much.
Through the nose,
Yeah.
deep.
Yeah, and then breathe out from your mouth. You know, just. But
And,
slow.
and is it breathe in for 4 seconds, breathe out 8 seconds? I've heard that one. Is it?
Well, 4 seconds really. 4 seconds.
4 seconds in, 4 seconds out.
Right. Right. Just not, just at a constant pace for a good couple of minutes, and then that's how you start to feel like you'll have a lot more air, especially when it came to shows. You get a little, I guess you could say, nervous. So it's a good way to relax and breathe, and also be comfortable.
Yeah.
And to relax the lungs, so that way you can prepare yourself for your show.
It's amazing how breathing can change the way you feel.
Yeah.
Like if you're stressed, just breathing right can reduce that by a big margin.
Absolutely.
And a lot of us people forget about breathing, because we're not taught at school about breathing. No one ever says, no, you breathe, this is it, you've learned it. But no, if you do it deliberately and mindfully, you can actually change a lot of things. How did your musical direction in Synthwave evolve? How did it change since you started first?
Tremendously over the years. I mean, through each and every, as you can see with each and every release, I tend to try to change the vibe that I'm going for with each and every release that I've done previously.
Every album is a different sound?
Yeah. So it's kind of like, my project, it doesn't stick to one thing. It's very experimental. I mean, it goes in many different directions within this genre, and but it's allowed me to learn. I've learned a lot more as I continue to listen to new songs that were recently released by artists that I admire, and has given me more of an understanding of what I can do better on my next release. Yeah.
What are the biggest mistakes Synthwave producers make these days? In production, in getting their name out there?
A lot of, really, I would say too many releases too soon. I think people just release things just to expect to see where it goes. And I would say several years ago, maybe more, that probably would have been a good idea, but it's not the same anymore, especially because of the technology that we have and the amount of music that's being released every day, every week, and so on. So it's made it a lot tougher to even stand out in that concept of just the expectation of releasing something and just see how it turns out on its own is no longer a thing. It's no longer, it's not recommended anymore. As for the names, I mean, some people just want to rush in, and the funny thing is I've seen a lot of people having a particular name for their project, and then they add their year, I think. Like, I don't want to call any music projects out, but I guess you could say, think of Miami Nights 1984. I don't know if that guy was in 84, but most of these people that have a project today tend to add a year of when they were born on the side of the name. It's funny,
September 87.
Yeah, but I'm not here to judge. I'm just saying.
I think Miami Nights 1984 was the first who did it.
He was the first. Yes.
So you can excuse him.
Yes, exactly.
But then the rest of them thought, oh, I'm going to do what he did. Maybe it's a magic formula to be like.
Yeah, Overdrive 85 or something like that.
Do you think name is very important, that it can change the path of a career?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think people don't take that into consideration. I mean, yes, it's a fun project, but a lot of people don't understand that this is your project, that you're the way you represent yourself. Think of it as a business. Technically, it is. And it has a limited run. Nothing lasts forever.
Okay. Because sometimes, you meet a person who has a weird name, or maybe there's a brand, like, for example, Adidas. It's pretty damn weird.
Yeah.
But we got used to it, and it's not weird anymore, and it became the thing which Adidas is.
Yeah.
Or we don't know what that means, really. As a matter of fact, it's a mixture of two brothers who was Adi. One of them was Das.
Yeah.
And they just mixed their names and created this brand. So sometimes I think, maybe for first impressions is important, but then in the long run, you sort of, if it's really good, is gonna outlive a name, and name is gonna become what it is, and people just gonna get used to it, and perception is gonna change of that name. Would you share any tricks and tips with aspiring producers? Maybe the main ones which you would have wanted to know when you started off, but you didn't, you had to find out yourself?
Take your time on your mixes. Don't talk to everybody, every single producer. Not everybody has the same ideas or goals as yourself. And I would say surround yourself with people who have the same mentality as yourself in production, and just the overall goal as to what you seek into doing for yourself. So I think that plays a huge role. Educate yourself as much as you can as well.
Educate yourself, that's good. And education is free these days. You go on Google, you go on YouTube, everything's there, all the tutorials are there. I think now you have no excuse to, if you want to do something, if you think you're good at it, there is no excuse not to get better. Experience and YouTube is the best education. It's all there. It's all, everybody want to share. Everybody want to share.
Trial and error.
They had,
Are they fighting?
Look at that.
You gotta take a video of this, man. They are fighting.
Why couldn't they?
That is captivating. All right, what's going on here? Probably both.
When it comes to marketing your music, what do you do? Every platform?
Every platform.
You go all out?
I mean, definitely have a PRO, you know, like BMI or ASCAP performance to collect performance royalties, and then
wait, BRO?
BMI.
BMI. What's BMI?
These are companies that basically accumulate royalties off of your music. So if your music is being played through commercials, live events, or even you playing a show of, you know, playing your own original music at a show, there's royalties that are collected from all that, you know, and also digital distributors. You know, they basically distribute all your music through all the platforms, and over time they accumulate every stream, every digital purchase that's being made. Even YouTube channels that play your music also accumulate streams as well for your music.
Marvelous. Thank you for that tip.
No problem.
A couple of years ago, film director found you on SoundCloud and offered you to do a soundtrack for a movie they were about to make.
That's right. There was one soundtrack and 2 songs that they wanted to license. Actually, yeah. It was Another Time and Scenes. Those are the 2 that were the 2 songs that they added.
There's 2 tracks of yours in that movie. Movie is called Alterscape, which was released in 2018. Everybody check it out. Has great music by Dreamshore. How was that experience making a soundtrack? I imagine it's different. Did you actually see the video first and then you started sort of?
What he did was he provided me the entire video, the clips that were going to be in the movie, and from there, script of when he wanted to add music, when he did not want to add music, and the type of vibe that he wanted to go for, the type of mood. So then that's from there I just figured out what I believe would fit, and just went with that.
Was there a lot of back and forth?
Actually, it was just they send me references, you know, soundtracks to provide reference in what they would want me to do in my own way. So as far as back and forth, I mean, once I figured out the idea that I was going for, I just worked with what I had and provided them the soundtrack to see if they liked it, and it was a done deal.
Who was the name of a person who contacted you?
Serge Levin.
Serge Levin.
Serge Levin, I'm sorry. Levin.
Serge Levin.
Serge Levin.
Was he a director of a movie or
Yes,
producer?
He was a director and actor.
Oh, nice. So here we are. This is guys, we are on the shore of Biscayne Bay. We have the famous Miami skyline in the background, which is the reason why I'm here now personally, because I moved from another continent purely because of this view. I often say Miami downtown looks good from far away.
Yeah.
And that's where I like to be when I think of Miami. Far away, across the bay, about 2 miles. When you get there, obviously you don't see that beauty as much.
Right.
The beauty is sometimes you have to zoom out a little bit to see. I assume you're a fan of Miami Vice?
I am. I mean, I've watched all 5 seasons, and every now and then I'll go back and watch another episode for inspiration, reference, or just for the sole purpose of pleasure.
Absolutely, me too. I think I watched Miami Vice, the whole thing, over maybe 4 or 5 times, and now I'm just going back to a certain specific episodes, which I really like. But there's a YouTube channel called Sonny Crockett 1984, where the guy recreates the music from, not necessarily recreates, but he captured the music which has not been released in a CD or anywhere by Jan Hammer.
Yeah.
So there are, like you watch Miami Vice and you think, oh, I'd love to have that soundtrack, but it's not available in anywhere. So the guy literally goes into the show's audio track, cleans out the dialogue.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can hear a little bit of a dialogue.
Yeah.
And you have the soundtrack, which was never available anywhere else.
Except there, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna make sure the link is in the description. If you want to check out the YouTube channel for that, loads of great soundtracks. Miami Vice. Now they're bringing back Miami Vice. NBC said they are launching a reboot of Miami Vice. How do you feel about that? Do you think it's a good thing?
Definitely, yeah. Just my only concern is how they're going to bring it, how it's going to be represented. Will it have the aesthetics behind it, like it did during the original?
Yeah.
That's my main concern.
Mine too. I'm really concerned.
Yeah.
Because guys, Vin Diesel, Don Johnson, please, if you're bringing back Miami Vice, please go to Miami Vice forums and listen to what people want. Please don't make mistake Magnum PI did, where they recreated Magnum PI. And I have nothing against, it looks modern, professional, but it's just lame, I'm sorry. As a Magnum PI fan, and I'm not even an old guy, I wasn't even born when it started in '84. But they just ruined the show, and I don't know if they're trying to appeal to the audience which doesn't know Miami, Magnum PI, and it's the first experience of that.
Yeah.
But man, it's a far cry from a Magnum PI. you can't replace Tom Selleck, I get it, but with reboots you have to be really considerate, and I think the problem with reboots these days is they reboot an old show, but they ditch all the good elements the original show had.
Yeah.
So in terms of Miami Vice, we want to see the cinematography, which Michael Mann's Miami Vice had. We want to see flamboyance in clothing. It doesn't completely have to, match the real world. It should be close.
Right,
it's not 80s anymore, but keep the panache. Keep the panache. I'm sure it's not an easy task to do because the times has changed.
Right.
But it's still doable. Work around it. I'm sure it's possible to do. And Don Johnson, Vin Diesel, guys, come on, talk to us fans. We have a huge community on Facebook, Miami Vice groups, at least 5 of them. We have people there who used to work on original Miami Vice, like Ricky Bravo, who I'm hoping to get on a podcast soon. he was a cameraman in Miami Vice first 2 seasons with his dad.
Oh,
So
wow.
he was young,
Oh,
but they worked
dad-
together first 2 seasons. And I'd love to have Rick Bravo here as well, like to tell the stories of like behind the scenes footage things of how Miami Vice happened, the personalities, people, issues, good things, bad things, you know, the things you don't get to know, really.
Exactly, yeah.
So what are you working music-wise on right now? Do you have new album coming out, new EP maybe?
At the moment, I am working on an album for next year. As far as when I plan to release it, I don't want to give that information just yet, but do know that 2020 is going to be a year where there's going to be a lot more music releases and everything else that goes around it.
Okay, and do you release the song slowly before the album comes out, or?
Yeah.
Yep, and that's the way to do it, right?
At this day and age, people have a short attention span, so I figured it would be best just to give little by little, and then give the rest at the right time.
That's fascinating, and thank you. That's a great insight for everyone. All the aspiring producers with experience to see a different perspective, maybe from a different producer. And producer who's reaching people. Like, I have at least 10 songs of yours in my, I'm from an era where we would download music and keep it, because I want to own the music.
Yeah.
I don't want to go on Spotify and
just stream it.
I do use Spotify, but not at home. If I have a laptop, I'll play. If I find a song I like, I'll make sure I can download it, and I want to own it. I just love owning things.
Just in today's age, it's changed so much. A lot. I mean, CDs are no longer a thing, so these platforms have become the the kings of music as far as how people consume it.
Right. You're working on a short film. You are aspiring filmmaker, director, actor, all things film, right?
Well, at this point, I am currently working on a film, but it's just taking a lot more time than expected. I'm still trying to finish up the script, and then from there, present it to a couple of friends that I have in mind that could perhaps help me with this, building the potential into this project, and see how it turns out.
Would you be acting in that movie too?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you often do live shows? Do you like doing live shows?
Not as often. I don't play as often as I would like to. But, in today's age, I've gotten to a point where, the older I get, I don't really have the same anticipation to be playing tons of shows anymore. It's just more about, having proper, I would say well-scheduled events that I'm more than willing to get involved in, rather than just doing a show every single day. It gets tiring. I've seen many stories about it, and I just don't like to be that next person that goes through it. It's not my thing. I mean, I have too many things to do as it is. I mean, I'm, trying to work on a short film and everything else that goes with it from an album and such. So, shows are not I wouldn't say my priority. Not my type of.
But you are doing a show soon.
Definitely, yeah.
But you are doing a show soon.
Yeah, it's
the show is called Seaside Galleria. It's taking place here in Miami Beach.
That's
correct?
Right.
And it's
on December 7th.
7th of December.
Yeah, the weekend of Art Basel weekend.
Nice,
nice.
Night. There's going to be a lot of people around in general. Very nice vibes.
Very packed, yeah. Hopefully, people enjoy it. I mean, it's going to be a lot of different genres all combined in one. I mean, all that relates towards electronic music.
Electronic music.
But not exactly all heavily synthwave based.
Mm-hmm.
I might be the only guy that's doing it, and I'll be.
Yeah, I'll make sure I'm there, because I've never been to a Synthwave live show. And by the way, how do you do a Synthwave live show? I mean, if it's a track where you're singing, right?
Right.
What if it's an instrumental track?
Usually, I'll just play a couple of.
You have a piano?
The keyboard or even guitars. I usually bring both, and a little mixer to do effects, kind of like what a DJ does. So
right.
So I'm basically like all over the place. There's a song where I'm using the mixer, a song where I'm playing the keyboards, and then sometimes I'm playing guitar and vocals at the same time. So yeah, I'm basically have to be my one-man band.
Yeah. Do you
But,
like being? Do you like an idea of being a DJ at all? Like
I've
you
had
know,
moments.
Some yeah.
I've had moments. Just haven't really dedicated the time into getting involved in DJing, or actually dedicating the time to DJ. So right now I'm just focused on finishing up the music, and then taking the time into playing shows afterwards, and see how things turn out from there.
Like Toronto had a Synthwave festival, music festival. London has it. Quite often you just came back from London recently?
Yeah, I came from London not too long ago, about a month
How was
and
it?
a half. It was great. It was great, meeting a lot of different people, and it's a different vibe, but a good kind. And the people were nice. I met a lot of people that I've spoken to on the internet for a couple of years, and then seeing them for the very first time, it was mind-boggling, because you talk to these people for so long, you don't really know what they're like until you actually see them in person. It's just like, oh, this is great. This is exactly who they are.
Yeah.
And it was it was just great being at a different country. It was the first time I ever actually traveled to a European country.
I've heard you say in an interview that you like to spend time alone and you don't go to parties that much. Do you think it makes you a better version of yourself, or a better version in whatever you do in life? Creativity, work, mindfulness, health?
During my teenage years, I was the type of person that enjoyed going out as often as I desired.
Mm-hmm.
But then I started to realize it wasn't everything that I was looking for. So I started to change a lot of my ways of how I live and what I do for myself to sustain stability and mental health.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially as I got older, I started to realize, well, I can't do the same things that I used to during that time frame. It's not the same. I have to change. So now it's just gotten to a point where, yes, I prefer to be, by myself, quiet, at a peaceful location. Every weekend or so, or let me say on my day off, I would take the time to go to the beach.
Nice.
And just stay there for a couple of hours, as as we've mentioned. Staying away from technology just for a little bit to have time for yourself.
Take a little day off from all that buzz. And is music the only thing you do, or is there anything else you do for a living?
Well, I still have my own regular full-time day job, but but also in my case, it's always been currently work, music, and gym. Like I like doing a lot of different types of gym activities, inside at a regular gym, and sometimes just outside and doing different exercises to experiment on, to see what I'm more comfortable with.
Nice.
But yeah, and if we're referring to income here, I do also do like things online, but like based off of my phone, like these little apps that allow you to like stocks.
Nice.
Crypto.
Nice. Investor?
Yeah, investments like on Fidelity. I don't know if you've heard of Fidelity.
I've heard of it, but I wouldn't know what it is.
Well, it's another investment website
Mm-hmm.
website where you can invest in stocks and bonds, or stocks in general. So yeah, I guess you could say I'm the kind of guy that likes to do multiple things. I used to sell shoes on eBay, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I would.
Special edition shoes, or
well,
just...
you know what? Sometimes whatever I can get my hands on at a Goodwill store, at these like these local spots where you can get them for like a lot less, and then just sell them on eBay. But it's changed so much. It's not the same anymore.
It's not profitable as it used to be.
There's too many fees now, and there's too many people doing the same exact thing. So I was just like, well, I have to take a step back and figure out what's going to be, what would be the best thing to sell as of now. But for now, I've taken a break from that and not really, stressing into that. I got enough stuff to do as it is. So.
Now, talking about gym, you are a big fan of Jean-Claude Van Damme. Did Jean-Claude Van Damme have anything to do with the fact that you are into gymnastics?
I guess you could say he plays a big role. Yes, definitely. I mean, after watching some movies and seeing him the way he is now compared to back then, he still maintains his
Yeah.
himself. So it motivated me because it shows you could be as old as you are as the years progress, but staying active, I think, is something that a lot of people should really take into consideration, especially for the long run. I mean, you see many people nowadays who are active and people who are not as active, and it plays a huge role. And it should really remind people to not take your body for granted.
Absolutely. I think exercise is the best thing you can do to yourself. Personally, of course, I'm talking from my personal perspective. To me, it's a soup for my soul. If I didn't do it, I'll be a different person.
Yeah.
Not as good in everything I do. Everything I do.
Same.
And people think it's about looking good, but as a matter of fact, it's mostly for your mind. It takes the stress away. It gives you endorphins rush. It gives you dopamine, which then enables you to be more creative, a better human being. I mean, I do yoga regularly, and I've never seen more pleasant bunch of people than after the yoga class, those guys leaving the yoga class.
Yeah.
There is, if you want to meet some really pleasant, nice people in high spirits, wait until the yoga class finishes and watch them go by.
I haven't done that in a while, but I should, and I never really been to those classes.
Yeah.
So I really know what it's like. Usually I always do everything myself, or maybe with a partner, but that's it. But maybe I'll give it a shot.
Yeah. I mean, I do it myself as well, but with a class, it's a slightly different experience. It makes you push harder because there's still a little bit inside which wants to compete.
Right.
And there's always this gal or guy who is really good, and I want to be close or just as good or even better.
Yeah.
So, although it's not a very yogic way to think, but
human nature.
But you know what? It works out pretty well sometimes.
Yeah.
Competition, it makes you push your limits. What do you think is the future of Synthwave in the coming years, in the future, in general? Do you think it's going to change its sound?
I think it's only going to grow. It's only going to grow, and the sound will develop much more compared to what it was in the early 2000s during Miami Nights 1984's era to now. It's only going to be to a point where people will start combining possibly 80s and 90s elements, who knows, and coming up with other ideas to shove this music community into a more mainstream spectrum. I mean, as you can see, there's movies that are coming out like Kung Fury. I don't know if you've seen that short film.
Yeah, I have seen it.
And now they're coming out with a full feature film with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah.
What is it called?
It's Kung Fury. I don't know the whole
Really?
title, but
Wow.
it's a full feature
I
film.
love that movie. I'm not a sci-fi fan.
Yeah.
But the way it was made and the humor, like 80s humor they had and certain references, that was brilliant.
No, but the guy I'm really surprised by the guy who did it, the director himself, who was actually the actor of that movie as well, the main character. He started off everything with himself. He only had like $5,000, I think it was, and he did almost all the film production by himself, and then finally started to build his own little following with friends and people who admired the potential of what it had. So it's inspiring, and I think it's only going to, because of that, it's inspired a lot of people to discover this music community much more. And I think over the years it will. I have high hopes for this music community, that it will be far more superior over time.
Do you think it's going to have more and more following as the years go by?
I believe it will.
Because I think there are a lot of people who love that kind of music, but they haven't discovered it yet.
Yeah, people that know or lived or heard about 80s music and movies, movies within that time frame they technically do have that synthwave element to it. So
yeah.
I'm sure that because of that, it will also motivate people to discover this type of sound as well, and it's only going to grow, in my opinion. especially with the internet today.
Do you think it's gonna be like, you know, like it started off as 80s, synthwave, like 80s sound? Do you think it's gonna, as time goes by, then it's gonna become 90s?
You know, I don't know about that. Let's
Like, and then maybe in 20 years it's gonna be 2000s. Like,
I'm sure there's going to be some artist that's going to come up with something like that. You never know. But there's always going to be other artists that will stick to its guns.
Yeah, yeah. Tell us something people, not many people know about you. A part of you being liking to be alone and not liking the parties too much.
I can't use that excuse. I love to swim.
Wow, interesting.
I love to swim, and well.
Where do you swim? Do you swim in the ocean, in a pool?
In Hollywood Beach.
It's a naked beach, isn't it?
No, that's Holliver.
Oh,
Beach.
Sorry. Yeah.
Hollywood Beach.
Hollywood Beach.
That's a little bit more up north.
It's
I think it's the quietest, the best beach to go.
Do you swim along the shore? Or do you swim out into the ocean?
Both.
Yeah?
Sometimes I'll start off with the shore and then work my way up with further deeper into the sea's level. When it's not so windy either, because the currents are
Yeah. If it's
strong.
too windy, it's just
It's
too choppy.
Yeah,
It's
way too choppy.
And you swim freestyle, I imagine.
Yeah,
right?
and I also enjoy boogie boarding. Using
wow.
a board to surf.
I've got one here.
You have one too?
Yeah.
Oh,
Because
nice,
in
nice.
UK I used to do that.
Yeah.
In UK we had a place called Newquay in the southwest of UK,
Yeah.
and it was surfing town. A lot of people are surprised when I tell them that yes, we have a surfing town in Newquay.
That's
and,
cool.
And there's one beach there where waves break every day.
Is it sort of like in the mountains in a way, or not a mountain? It's like you see it, the way you view it, is it underground in a way?
Yes, you view it from the top, and it's sort of shaped like it's bent.
My friends were telling me about that. I was
Really?
gonna, yes.
Wow.
I was gonna go there, but I couldn't because I had to leave the day that they were suggesting that we go.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm definitely gonna go back to London to hang
Yeah.
out with my friends and talk a little bit more about some ideas that we have in mind.
Nice.
So that's
Well,
also another thing that we have going on.
That's cool. That's cool. I miss UK because I lived there for 12 years, and to me it's like my homeland. Although I only spent there my whole adult life.
Yeah, it's a beautiful country. I like it.
It's a beautiful country, great culture. People have great sense of humor, and what Florida doesn't have is they have hills. So
That's right.
So
yeah.
you could be driving on a hill and you see ocean on the left and valley on the right, but the ocean is so down low. It's close, but yet so down low
Yeah.
that you almost see a curve. Like it's like you are in an aeroplane. And those little ocean drives high up, they give you amazing perspective on like the scenery is amazing.
Yeah. No, they're beautiful. The only hills that we have is the garbage hills. I guess if you want to go see a hill, that's the only hill you'll be able to
Yeah.
find.
Or you can just go always for like if you are in a skyscraper.
There you go. That's your
That's
mountain. That's your hill.
the substitute for a hill, or maybe on a bridge. Like,
Yeah.
are you into like jumping into water from like bridges and stuff, like free? What do they call it?
I've done it, but I haven't
Yeah?
done that in a while. But
Yeah.
I like it.
Would
yeah.
you be up for doing it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I want to do it. Rickenbacker.
Yeah.
Of course. I want to jump off that one. I know it's pretty damn high,
It's high, but
and you have to make sure your buttocks are squeezed in, so there's nothing is loose. You have to be super
Exactly.
tense
Yeah.
when you enter water.
Yeah.
Should be wearing sneakers, but that would make some good videos too,
Absolutely. Yes. Well, you let me know.
Yeah? Yeah, you up
I'm
for
up
it?
for it. I'm up for
All
it.
right, man. Anyway, thanks for coming. It's great to have you here. It's an honor. We filmed yesterday, by the way, and unfortunately, knowing my luck, I forgot to press the record button on the audio. So all that was lost. But Dreamshore was kind enough and honored my apology, and he's here again. And we're gonna do some business. I'm gonna make you some t-shirts, and yeah, I wish the best of luck to you in the future. Don't stop making synthwave music. You have great sound, and enjoy life.
Absolutely.
Do what
Thank
you love.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me here. It was great.
Oh, it's pleasure. It's
and-
pleasure.
And let's continue talking.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.